When Jasmine Crockett's recent statement about the supposed truth behind Donald Trump's bond with Ivanka, and even questions involving Barron surfaced, Trump dismissed it completely. Standing beside him, Ivanka stayed composed, calm under the spotlight. And then, Barack Obama, steady as always, said just 6 words that shook everything. "Prove me wrong with a DNA test." That evening, the entire city pulsed with anticipation. Streets outside the studio overflowed with reporters, flashing cameras, and curious onlookers, hoping to catch even the smallest glimpse of what was about to unfold. Everyone knew Barack Obama was appearing on a prime-time talk show that night. That alone could draw a massive crowd, but no one was prepared for the surprise waiting inside. Inside the studio, the air was alive with tension. Crew members darted back and forth, adjusting lights, mics, and cameras, their voices buzzing through headsets. The audience filled every seat, murmuring and speculating about what Obama might say. The set gleamed under the studio lights. 3 chairs perfectly arranged in a row. A polished table with clear glasses of water beside them. The host walked on first, smiling broadly as the audience burst into applause. The sound filled the room, vibrant and eager. Then came the moment everyone was waiting for, the introduction of Barack Obama. He stepped out calm and confident, that familiar measured stride, defining him as it always had. The cheers rose instantly, filling the air with excitement. Obama smiled, nodded, and took his seat, exuding that quiet authority that had long followed him. At first, it felt like another routine interview, until the host's next words dropped like a bomb. "And joining us tonight, President Donald Trump and Ivanka Trump." The studio gasped. The audience leaned forward in disbelief as the camera swung to capture Trump entering the stage, his expression firm, his movements deliberate. Ivanka followed close behind, graceful and poised, scanning the audience with controlled calm. Together, they approached the stage as the room erupted in mixed sounds, cheers, murmurs, and the faint hum of shock. Obama turned his head slightly, lifting an eyebrow, but staying composed. He shifted in his seat and gave a faint smile as Trump and Ivanka joined him. It was an image no one expected to see: Obama, Trump, and Ivanka sitting shoulder to shoulder live on television. 3 powerful figures with tangled histories, now forced to share one stage. The host, eager to keep things steady, began with neutral questions. "What does leadership mean to you? How do you define legacy?" Obama answered first, his tone calm and reflective. He spoke about duty, about responsibility, about the choices made for the greater good. His words carried weight, every sentence deliberate, grounded. Trump followed, his voice booming through the room. He spoke of strength, of winning, of standing tall, no matter the opposition. His hands moved with conviction, slicing the air, as if commanding attention not just from those in the studio, but from the entire nation. Then came Ivanka, poised and articulate. She described leadership as loyalty, as devotion to family, and perseverance through adversity. Her voice was smooth, polished, perfectly balanced against her father's forceful energy. For a while, it almost felt civil. Obama listened thoughtfully, responding when needed. Trump fired back with sharp confidence. Ivanka played the bridge, softening moments of conflict with careful phrasing. But beneath the surface, something else simmered, an unease that the audience could sense. It wasn't just about politics anymore. The host glanced at his notes, hesitated, then took a breath. "There's been talk," he said slowly, "about recent claims made by Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett." The air shifted instantly. The chatter died. "She's presented evidence," the host continued, suggesting unusual dynamics within the Trump family, and even raising questions about Barron Trump's biological ties. The silence that followed was absolute. Not even the hum of the cameras could be heard. Obama's expression stayed neutral, though his eyes sharpened slightly. Trump's face hardened. Ivanka straightened in her chair, jaw tightening. This was no longer a discussion about leadership, it had just turned personal. Trump moved first. His face flushed red as he slammed his hand on the armrest, the echo startling the audience. Jasmine Crockett. He thundered, "Let's get something straight. Her history is filled with lies and drama. She doesn't care about truth. She wants attention, just like always. These ridiculous accusations are nothing more than another political hit job against a family that's been under fire for years." The audience erupted, some clapping, others gasping, a few whispering nervously. Cameras zoomed in on Trump's fierce glare, his finger stabbing the air with every word. Before the host could move on, Ivanka leaned forward. Her voice was soft but cutting. "These accusations aren't grounded in facts," she said firmly. "They're malicious fabrications designed to tarnish our family's name. We've faced attacks before, but this crosses the line." Her words carried a different power. Where Trump's anger was explosive, hers was cool and deliberate, the tone of someone guarding something fragile. Her eyes locked onto the host, daring him to push further. For a brief moment, it seemed their defense might work. The room buzzed with mixed reactions, some nodding, others shifting uneasily. But Trump sensed the energy change. He doubled down. "Crockett has no credibility," he barked. "Everyone knows it. She's desperate for headlines. These so-called evidences are fake, pathetic, and don't belong on this stage." The studio lights burned on his face, revealing beads of sweat forming on his brow. His fists clenched. His chest heaved with each breath. Ivanka touched his arm briefly, trying to calm him, then turned to the audience again. "This isn't politics," she said evenly. "This is about family, about love and loyalty. To drag Barron into this, it's cruel. It's beneath anyone who claims to stand for truth." Her words earned soft murmurs. Some audience members looked sympathetic, others skeptical. The Trumps weren't just denying, they were discrediting. And for a fleeting moment, it seemed to be working. The host looked uneasy, unsure whether to keep pressing. Then the camera cut to Obama. He hadn't spoken during any of it. His hands stayed folded, his expression calm. Yet his silence filled the space. The host turned to him, almost hesitantly. "President Obama." "Your thoughts?" Obama leaned forward slightly. Slow and deliberate. His voice, when it came, was low, but carried clear authority. "Ivanka," he began, "you weren't just a figurehead in your father's administration. You had influence, real influence. Your role wasn't symbolic. You made decisions that shaped this country." The audience stirred. Ivanka's face tensed, though she kept her composure. Obama continued, his voice steady. "That's why these claims aren't just about family. They're political. They involve choices that affected the nation." He paused. The silence that followed was thick. Ivanka pressed her lips together, eyes flicking toward her father. Trump shifted in his seat, ready to interrupt, but Obama's gaze turned on him before he could. Donald Obama said, calm but firm, "Attacking Jasmine Crockett's character won't change the facts. Dismissing her doesn't answer the questions. If these claims are truly false, there's a simple way to prove it." The audience leaned forward. "Bring clarity," Obama said. "Bring transparency." Trump's face hardened. His jaw clenched. His breathing grew louder through the microphone. The tension was unbearable. And then Obama delivered the words that would ignite everything. "Prove me wrong with a DNA test." The audience gasped. The host froze, eyes wide. Even the production crew seemed stunned. Obama sat back, his face unreadable, composed, as if those 6 words had been waiting for the right moment to surface. Trump gripped the arms of his chair so tightly, his knuckles turned white. Ivanka's face flushed as she spun toward Obama, eyes blazing. The air crackled with electricity. Those 6 words. Prove me wrong with a DNA test hung in the air like thunder. It wasn't gossip. It wasn't a jab. It was a challenge. Direct, public, undeniable. The audience didn't know how to react. Some clapped, some gasped. Others sat frozen. Obama didn't gloat. He didn't smirk. He just waited. Trump inhaled sharply, ready to explode. Ivanka's lips parted as if to speak, but for once, no words came. Obama had shifted the power entirely. The moment Barack Obama said those words, chaos erupted. The audience roared, gasps, murmurs, and shouts colliding. Donald Trump's face burned crimson. He leaned forward, gripping the chair so hard it creaked. His voice exploded like thunder. Why should I prove anything? Why, everyone knows what this means. It's an admission that there's truth behind these disgusting lies. He jabbed a finger toward Obama. You don't have proof. Barack, you're just pulling a stunt, a disgraceful stunt to drag me, my family, and my son into your games. The studio shook with the sound of his anger. Ivanka leaned in, her voice trembling, but determined. This isn't about truth, she said sharply. It's about humiliation, about trying to destroy our family name. She looked out at the crowd, her gaze almost pleading. To even mention Barron like this, it's cruel. It's inhuman. Some in the audience nodded, others looked torn, but Obama remained still, unmoving, his expression unreadable. Trump slammed his fist on the armrest again. This is politics, plain and simple. They can't beat us on success, so they attack family. It's disgusting, his words echoed through the studio. Even the host seemed rattled. He fidgeted with his notes, unsure whether to step in. Obama finally leaned forward, his voice quiet, but piercing through the noise. Refusing a DNA test doesn't end this, he said. It doesn't silence the questions, it only makes them louder. This isn't about politics. It's about truth. The American people deserve that. The audience broke into divided reactions. Applause, boos, murmurs. But the effect was clear. Obama's calm cut sharper than any shout. Trump shook his head violently. No, you don't get to demand anything from me. I don't need to prove what everyone already knows. Obama didn't answer. He didn't have to. His silence said enough. The tension was unbearable. The audience hung on every word, every movement. It was no longer just a TV segment. It was a showdown broadcast to the world. The host cleared his throat, his voice trembling slightly as he tried to regain some control. So, where does this leave us? He asked, glancing nervously between the 3 figures. Is this just political theater, or is there a real step forward? Trump snapped his head toward him, eyes blazing, voice sharp and unyielding. It leaves us exactly where we've always been, under attack. Attacked by people who can't stand our strength, our success, our leadership. These lies are weapons, nothing more, and we will not give in to them. The audience responded in a mix of cheers and groans. Some shouted, "That's right," while others muttered, "Why not just take the test?" Ivanka leaned in, her tone softer than her father's, but no less firm. My father doesn't owe anyone proof of who he is or who we are. Our family shouldn't be subjected to circus demands, especially when they're built on falsehoods. To entertain this is to give it weight it doesn't deserve. Cameras cut across the audience. Some nodded at her words, visibly moved by her measured defense. Others whispered quietly, unsettled, wondering if perhaps there was some merit to the claims. The seed of doubt had already been planted. Obama, still calm, leaned forward. His voice carried authority that drew the audience's attention immediately. "No one is forcing you, Donald. No one is forcing you, Ivanka. But let me be clear. Refusing a simple test doesn't silence rumors. It feeds them. The longer you refuse, the louder they become." Gasps erupted. Applause mixed with murmurs of disbelief. The tension in the room was palpable. Everybody could feel it snapping at the edges. Trump's eyes bore into Obama, his body tense, his jaw locked. For the first time that night, he didn't fire back immediately. His silence said more than any shouted response could. Ivanka glanced down for a moment, then back up, keeping her expression neutral. She was determined to hold the line, though her hands clenched tightly in her lap betrayed the pressure she felt. The studio felt charged with anticipation. Every pause, every slight movement carried meaning. The host, desperate to guide the broadcast toward some conclusion, cleared his throat. "Well, it seems the challenge is on the table. Whether it will be answered remains to be seen." The cameras panned to capture every reaction. First, Trump's steely glare, raw, unyielding, burning with anger. Then Ivanka, calm but guarded eyes scanning the room. Finally, Obama, serene, composed, his expression unreadable. 3 faces, 3 reactions, 1 frozen moment. The broadcast ended without resolution. There was no agreement, no DNA test, just questions. Impossible questions, hanging in the air. The public was left to decide. Was this just another smear, an attack designed to weaken the Trumps? Or had Obama cornered them, knowing there was more beneath the surface? The truth remained suspended, heavy and unresolved, like a storm cloud, refusing to break. And as the night drew to a close, one challenge echoed nationwide, unanswered and unforgettable. The question lingered, what do you believe? The story wasn't over, it had only begun. Backstage cameras cut away, but the tension lingered. Trump leaned back in his chair, jaw tight, his chest rising and falling as if bracing for the next onslaught. Ivanka, still polished, kept her composure outwardly, but subtle glances betrayed the stress she felt. Every reporter and crew member backstage whispered quietly, sharing theories, questioning motives, calculating outcomes. Obama, meanwhile, remained calm. He had delivered his words, and now they were floating through the collective consciousness of the studio audience and the millions watching at home. He didn't need to say more. His silence after that pronouncement carried as much weight as the statement itself. Every tick of the clock amplified the challenge he had issued, giving it life beyond the broadcast. In living rooms across the nation, viewers were frozen. The line, "Prove me wrong with a DTCDT8," echoing in their heads. Social media exploded immediately. Hashtags trended, videos were clipped and shared. Commentators analyzed the scene frame by frame. Opinions flew in all directions. Some defended Obama's straightforward challenge. Others raged at what they saw as an attack on the family. And yet others were uncertain, unsure what to believe. Even late into the night, news outlets couldn't stop replaying the moment each time, dissecting facial expressions, body language, and vocal inflections. Trump's defiance, Ivanka's measured defense, and Obama's calm authority became the centerpiece of a debate that extended far beyond the studio. Analysts debated every possible interpretation. Was this purely a political maneuver? Was there truth behind the claim, or was it a masterclass in control and timing by Obama? Inside, the studio staffers busily packed up equipment, but the air remained thick with the electricity of what had just occurred. Producers whispered to one another about the historic nature of the exchange. Audience members filed out slowly, still talking in low, urgent tones. Some were laughing nervously, trying to diffuse the tension. Others walked silently, weighed down by the enormity of the confrontation they had just witnessed. Trump, escorted by security, left the studio with the same deliberate steps he had entered, with jaw tight and eyes focused straight ahead. Ivanka followed, glancing occasionally at the departing cameras and crew. Behind them, the echo of Obama's words seemed to linger, an invisible pulse that refused to dissipate. Outside, the crowd remained buzzing with excitement, replaying the moment over and over in conversation. Cell phones were raised, videos, captured, theories shared. It wasn't just an interview anymore. It was a cultural moment, a flashpoint that would be debated for weeks to come. Back in the studio, the host finally exhaled. He had guided the conversation as best he could, but even he couldn't contain the gravity of the moment. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said cautiously, "you've just witnessed a discussion that will not soon be forgotten. The questions remain, and the challenge has been laid bare." The cameras slowly faded to black, leaving viewers with only the echo of those 6 words. Across the nation, conversations continued to ripple outward. Offices, homes, and online spaces were filled with debate. Was Obama's challenge fair? Was Trump justified in his anger? And Ivanka, what role had she played in shaping the narrative, both on the stage and in the public mind? For all 3 figures, the night had left marks. For Trump, a sense of cornered defiance and unresolved tension. For Ivanka, the constant balancing act of loyalty and composure. For Obama, a display of measured control, using silence and precise timing to dominate the narrative without raising his voice. And for the audience, both in the studio and across the country, the story wasn't over. It had only begun. Each person carried a piece of the unresolved challenge, contemplating what it would mean if it were answered or left unanswered. Every whisper, every replay, every discussion carried the tension forward. Even hours later, journalists drafted articles, editors debated headlines, and social media exploded with opinions and theories. It wasn't just news, it was a phenomenon. The weight of Obama's words, the intensity of Trump's responses, and Ivanka's careful moderation created a moment that defied easy interpretation. As the night wore on, the echoes persisted. The challenge hung like a shadow over political conversations nationwide. Questions about family loyalty and truth permeated talk shows, news cycles, and online debates. One phrase, simple, 6 words, had become a lightning rod, unstoppable and uncontainable. The story, far from concluded, was now part of a larger national conversation. Each viewer carried their own interpretation, each whisper fueled by speculation. What had been a television segment had become a moment etched into the cultural memory, a reference point for discussions about truth politics and the fragile balance between public image and private life. And so, as the lights dimmed in the studio and the audience filed out, the challenge remained. Unanswered, unforgettable, hanging over everyone who had witnessed it both live and through screens. The question was simple yet monumental. Prove me wrong with a DNA test. The night closed with uncertainty, with tension, with unresolved questions that would not fade. The clash between defiance and measured calm had been recorded for history, and the echoes of the confrontation would persist in every conversation, every debate, every reflection on that unforgettable evening. The story wasn't finished, not by a long shot. The nation had been presented with a challenge, and the answer, if it ever came, would change everything. Until then, the words would linger, impossible to ignore, impossible to forget. And the debate between anger and composure, accusation and defense, challenge, and avoidance was only beginning.